Hey, so I have Phil Treadwell, mortgage coach, in the studio today, and I've known Phil for a few years now, and I thought he'd be the awesome first person to have on the new podcast that we're starting. Phil, since most of my audience won't know who you are, could you tell us why people should even listen to you on this podcast as a loan officer?
Well, they shouldn't. They absolutely should not listen to me whatsoever. No. I've been in the mortgage business going on 23, 24 years now, all sides of origination and sales from loan officer, branch manager. I owned my own little broker shop for a few years, worked for a couple years for one of the big banks, found a home in, IMB land where I was a area manager, regional VP, national director. I've had one of the top mortgage podcasts, Mortgage Marketing Expert, for I think we started May of 2018. So we're coming up on our 8-year anniversary of that. Do a lot of coaching and consulting, and I'm just kind of a student of this business. I'm a compilation of the who's who within our industry that I've learned from, and taken some great advice and applied it not only to my own business but to people that I work with and coach. So at the end of the day, I'm just here as a conduit to hopefully add some value and share some nuggets with people.
Phil, I'm really excited to ask these questions and see how we can help loan officers grow their business. So since we just saw that thing come out with Trump about like them buying into bonds, how can a loan officer prepare for the refinance season through marketing, phone calls? What would you recommend?
Man, this is a good question, and it's definitely relevant to what's happening. I think the first thing people need to realize is that when we were in 2020 and 2021, when rates were significantly lower, and we all know that they were artificially low because the Fed was purchasing so many mortgage-backed securities. We have to look at that time period and really understand what was happening. They were first buying mortgage-backed securities, and then as those matured or sold off, they were reinvesting those dollars in addition to putting new dollars. And then when they stopped doing new dollars, they were just reinvesting for a while until they phased that out as well. And that's in 2022 when we saw that really high increase in rates. I mention that because $200 billion in mortgage-backed securities is enough where the markets are going to move because of headlines, but it's not going to make a significant impact in rates from a dollar amount standpoint. If they want to do 200 billion a month, that's a completely different conversation, or even 200 billion a quarter. But 200 billion by itself may move it a little bit, but it's not going to make a huge significant impact to where the affordability issues that we're having are going to be solved. Affordability is as much about inflation, home prices, lack of supply, which are keeping home prices where they are. So the conversation that loan officers, mortgage professionals need to be having, both with consumers and with real estate professionals, is that the government and some of these high-level national or governmental organizations are paying attention to the challenges we're having in the industry, and they're trying to do things that are going to help increase the desire for consumers and people to want to buy homes, to invest in real estate and things of that nature. But I see a lot of people that are posting a reel, or they're posting a video or a graphic or something saying rates are going to come down because the government has decided to start buying mortgage-backed securities again. And I think that's the wrong way to approach it. What I think the right way to approach it is that affordability has been an issue. Things are starting to move. Conversations are being had at a high level. Let's have a conversation and see how or if this is going to affect where you're at. When you're reaching out to past customers to do an annual review or a mortgage efficiency checkup, you want to have a conversation of, I just want to make sure your mortgage is still working for you and you're not just working for your mortgage. You want to have a conversation. Closed deals come from leads. Leads come from conversations. So if we're posting content or we're doing marketing efforts for the purpose of people just calling us and saying, hey, I want to refi my house, or hey, I want to buy a home, you need to recalibrate your expectations. You need to be putting those marketing efforts out there to get attention. And we have to remember that's what marketing is. Marketing's getting someone's attention. Hard stop. So many mortgage professionals think they're marketing and all they're doing is selling, and that's not effective. So what we have to understand is by marketing and being out there, getting people's attention and staying top of mind, it makes it easier for us to go out and do our lead generation efforts, our one-on-ones, our text messages or DMs, emails, phone calls, whatever it is. Those two things need to work together. It's easier to have that conversation if they've seen a piece of content, seen an event you've had, seen something out there, but we need to shift this conversation from social media is used to create leads to social media is used to make it easier to create leads.
I love that so much. Okay. This one's going to be more for the 10 plus year loan officer that's been in the business for a while. How would you recommend a loan officer that's been in the business 10 plus years gets more business out of their current real estate agents instead of just trying to get the next agent because they ran out of fumes with their current ones?
That's a good question. One that actually came up in two earlier conversations today, one with an existing client, one with a potential client. The first thing we have to realize is people that have been in the business 10 plus years have had a level of success at some point to where they're still continuing to do this. They're still trying to make things happen. But I get a lot of conversations around burnout or frustration. And while I know burnout's a real thing, what I tell people is if you were making an extra 10 grand a month right now, doing exactly what you're doing at the level that you're doing it, would you still feel burned out? And most people kind of smile and laugh and be like, no, probably not. You're right. Or they're just kind of quiet, kind of contemplating it. Well, that means you're not really burned out. You're frustrated with the lack of results. And the lack of results is either from a problem in the system and flow, the process you've created, or you're just not staying persistent and pushing yourself until you break through and start getting those results. That being said, the average seasoned loan officer has to remember that the strategy that got you here is probably not the same strategy that's going to take you to the next level. So I'll get a little bit tactical. Instead of just reaching out to realtors and saying, hey, I'd love to buy you a cup of coffee, take you to lunch, take you to golf, happy hour, whatever. Let me show you how good my service really is. Give us a shot. Get me on your list. It's not that that's inherently bad. It's that everyone's doing a version of that same script. But if you said, hey, Bob, Joe, Sally, Sue, whatever, we met at an event or I saw you on social media. I wanted to let you know I do a lot of marketing to my sphere of influence and database and past clients, and I run across people that don't actually have a realtor. So I'd love to have a conversation, hear more about your business, see if our goals align. Who knows, I may be able to give you an at-bat as well. Now, the way that you can ethically do that is because you are reaching out to your sphere of influence, people you haven't talked to in a few months, and just saying, hey, hadn't talked in a while, would love to catch up. I know that you know I'm in the mortgage business. What you may not know is I actually have strategies to help people create wealth with real estate. I'd love to share some details and get your opinion. Who knows? Maybe you know somebody that I should talk to. And if you sent 3 texts or DMs or 10 or whatever every day, goes back again. You start conversations that lead to leads, that lead to closed deals. And now you reach out to referral partners, letting them know you reach out to your sphere of influence, and not everyone you talk to has a realtor. So all of a sudden, you're starting with value as opposed to, I just want my handout and for you to give me something. So that's one shift. And the other shift is that in today's day and age, it's much easier to go higher up the funnel as opposed to just waiting for realtors to send you business. A lot of realtors are frustrated. And the very first week I got in the mortgage business, my very first mentor said, it's highly unlikely that the realtors you work with your first year in business are going to be the same realtors you work with 3 years from now, because they either get out of the business or they transition to a listing agent and they're not in control of where the buyers get referred. And so I think we have to understand that going in, that there are seasons and it is cyclical. And statistically, 67 or 70% of realtors who get licensed are not licensed 18 months later. So there's a huge amount of attrition, and we just have to realize that if that's your style of doing business, and it's always been my style, working with referral partners, working with realtors, and creating those relationships, you've got to do it in a way where you lead with value, that you're relevant to what's happening in today's day and age, and not trying to use the same strategies that you used in 2016 or 2006. And then once you create a plan, you have to stay consistent and persistent. We're too impatient. We're waiting for the phone to ring. We're waiting for things to happen overnight. And long-term relationships don't happen overnight. They take time to nurture.
So good. Your answers are so good. Okay, probably the last question that I want to end with. If you're a loan officer, because we're going on it's probably 3 or 4 years since rates went up. So it's been feels like a long time, like it's never going to end. If you're a loan officer that has made it this far and you feel like you're surviving, I don't know the right word.
Thriving.
Not thriving. Yeah, thriving. What would you do to turn your business around? And that's the last question I'll ask.
No, that's a good one. And I'm going to take this from a little bit different direction since we've gone pretty tactical. There's a difference between motivation and drive. I think we all know that. Motivation is something that is a feeling and it fades. There's nothing wrong with being motivated. There's nothing wrong with getting yourself motivated. But motivation starts to taper off really quickly when we start doing a thing that we don't want to do at a time that we don't want to do it. And the only way that we can push through that is if we have drive. Drive is something that's deeper than that. So from a mindset perspective, because my company M1 Academy is mindset first, it's not the only thing that's going to make you successful, but it is the most important thing because it controls our attitude and our actions. Those are the only two things we can control. We can't control our clients. We can't control our referral partners or realtors. We sure can't control the market. What we can control are the things that we do and how we respond to the things that happen to us. So the first thing we need to control is understanding where is it that we want to go. We're at the beginning of the year where people have set goals or in the process of setting goals, and 93% of people, statistically, will not achieve the goals that they set for themselves. And that's because they're either not clear enough about what they want, or they just don't want it badly enough. They've just set an arbitrary goal that they think they're supposed to set. So what I tell people to do is you need to have a North Star. What's the ideal version of you? I heard a quote one time that said the definition of hell is meeting the person you might have become. Well, I say hell with that. Figure out who that person is, and let's reverse engineer that into milestones. Like, what are the big milestones that need to happen over a long period of time to get you there? Reverse engineer it so that now you've got some goals for 2026 that are going to move you in that direction. And don't just make it about business. Make it about your life, right? Your spiritual life, your mental life, your physical life, your emotional life, and yes, your financial life. And then as you start putting those goals together for the year, you can even make them shorter, 90 days or 30 days. And then you attach an action habit to it, an activity. What is an action habit, an item, or multiple that I can do on a daily basis, on a monthly basis, that's going to help me achieve this goal? Now, the reason I want people to do it that way is if done correctly, the goals that you have mean more to you than just the certain number of families you helped this year or a certain production and income level. We've got to go deeper than that. Okay, you want a 7-figure W-2 or you want to break 6 figures? That's awesome, but what does that mean to you? What does that do for your family? Does that retire a spouse? Does that put your kids in a private school? Does that, pay off your parents' house? Does that help you take vacations and spend more quality time or create opportunities to hire people in your team so that you can buy back some? What is the thing that the goal is actually going to do for you that means something? So now all of a sudden the goal isn't just a goal, it's something that matters. And to make a long story short, that's what creates drive. Drive is going and doing the things you don't want to do when you don't want to do it. I'm convinced that most everyone in the mortgage business knows what to do. They're just not doing it for some reason. And most of the time, that's the thing that we don't want to do that's going to create the biggest unlock for us. So if we'll go and do that, all of a sudden, it changes the entire game.